This, right here, is what has long been known as Wade's Causeway. A 25-mile stretch of impressive megalithic stonework in Wheeldale, a bendy valley on the northeastern edge of the North York Moors. Where it's boggy, it's drizzly, it's the north of England basically. But for those boring few who think that this is a Roman road, they'll call it Wheeldale Roman Road. I say they call it like that because despite this thing being described as a Roman road for the better part of 400 years, modern archaeologists are beginning to think that it may actually date up to 4,000 years earlier, to around the same time as Stonehenge. So, is it a prehistoric road, a burial monument, some kind of ritual thing, as archaeologists like to ask? Or is it, as people always suspected, a very unusual Roman road? Hello everybody, and welcome today to Wheeldale, here in the North York Moors National Park. Not the nicest day for it, so I'm not sure if you'll pick this up completely, but behind me is it. It's Wheeldale Roman Road, also known by some people as the Skithic, also known by people as the Old Wife's Trod, or Gothland Roman Road. I prefer the term Wade's Causeway. As we will discuss, this does not have the usual composition of a Roman road. However, it does have the basic form. We've got the agger, that embankment, and then we have these sort of culverts to the side. Now, culverts like these are common across pretty much all Roman roads, and it makes complete sense up here, where it's boggy, it's drizzly, it's the north of England, basically. To add to that, I do have a very specific memory of scanning over old maps when writing my book, Yorkshire's Prehistoric Monuments. What I saw was something labelled kist, or cist, which if you know your prehistory, that means a stone-lined box that's made to hold body parts. And that was found just over there, I think pretty much where my finger's pointing. A kist. Now, when I looked into that, it turns out that that was a Roman kist. So we certainly have Roman things going on right here next to this. The question is, was it originally a Roman road? And was it ever even used as a Roman road? Just to clear a few things up, Wheeldale basically means bendy valley, or a valley shaped like a wheel. Wade's Causeway, on the other hand, has a much more fascinating name. It almost certainly references the Anglo-Saxon figure by the name of Wade. Surprise, surprise. Wade, i.e. Water, was a Frisian water god brought over as a cult by the Anglo-Saxons, which, on name alone, makes sense. This fella, Wade, gets several mentions in early medieval poems and was described as a king in the Old English Widsith. As well as that, there is a tiny fragment of a lost Tale of Wade, which describes his battles with water spirits. Norse tradition, or the Vikings on the other hand, had him as a cognate figure known as Vathi, or Varthi, born of a king and a mermaid, and father to Wayland, of Wayland's smithy fame. In these stories, Wade is a giant. Geoffrey Chaucer, later writing in the 11th century, made reference to Wade's boat in his The Merchant's Tale, which shows that Wade's story was once widely known to most English people. But although Wade's story is now lost, faint traces of his cult survive in northeastern English place names. Places such as Wade's Grave, the Wade Stones, and, of course, Wade's Causeway. It basically means Giant's Causeway, but its situation, so close to the sea, may imply that there was some kind of cultic activity happening here. The fact that the Saxons were potentially naming this thing would suggest that it predates them. After all, you wouldn't ascribe an ancient legend to a modern road, unless my petition to rename the M6 Shap Avenue V2 goes through, which I'm not holding out much hope for, to be honest. The question then is, who made it? We will get into the nitty-gritty details of that in a moment, but suffice it to say, this thing right here does not look like a normal Roman road. This is a photograph of the feature after excavation in the early 20th century, revealing something unlike anything else I've personally ever seen. And just to remind you all, this goes on for 25 miles. So basically, we have a weird looking road thing with an Anglo-Saxon name, long believed to be a Roman road, but not looking like anything else Roman in Britain or wider Europe. And as a local prehistorian, I can tell you right now, it doesn't resemble anything prehistoric that I know of either. So, first step. Why does anyone think that this is a Roman road? The route's most obvious feature is its northeastern alignment, following the valley slope in a relatively straight course between several Roman sites. Not perfectly straight, but close enough to make it appear strange. Most archaeologists trace this supposed road from a junction with the Roman fort down at Malton to the south. From there, it runs in long, deliberate alignments towards Risborough Hill, and then across the upland plateau past the large Roman camps at Cawthorne. Beyond here, its trace weakens, but it is thought to pass through Wade's Causeway all the way to Lees Rigg Fort in the north. You now meet me in the Cawthorne Roman camps. There are two of these, but this is right in the entrance. It's going dark, and my drone has run out of battery. I was on my way back from Wheeldale Roman Road, and there was a sign saying Cawthorne Roman Camp. I didn't even know it was right here, so may as well get some footage while I'm here. LiDAR makes the supposed road's course easier to see. Parallel culverts, slight kinks, and a possible bridging point here. Now what you're looking at here is a sort of, thrown together bridge over a little beck. But to me, these stones look pretty substantial. I would not be surprised if these were taken from Wheeldale Roman Road or Wade's Causeway. Interestingly enough, they sit right next to that bridge abutment, and they may have actually been taken from something a bit more substantial. What do you think? Bridge abutment? Breaking this where they've stuck in a culvert? Who knows? But that to me looks pretty well platformed up there. What do you think? The surface of the road continues clearly southward before fading into the dense moorland and terminating with an abrupt twist eastward, while to the north it appears to kink east and disintegrate where it supposedly heads towards the sea. So, at either end of Wade's Causeway, the obvious tract that we can see, it abruptly turns and disappears. Unusual but not unseen elsewhere are the really prominent curbstones that form its supposed agger. All of that being said, however, beyond surface level comparisons, this is nothing like a Roman road. Its route is windy and sinuous, with needless changes in direction. Although it's said to have disappeared over time, the structure does lack a compacted gravel surface, instead using megalithic foundation stones, some over 6 feet long, and upstanding slabs that would have obstructed any wheeled traffic. The curbstones are also unlike any known Roman examples, actually jutting above the road, not a mistake the Romans would have made. Therefore, I think it's quite safe to say, this is not a Roman road, not even an unusual one. Do you remember that I mentioned a kyst or cyst earlier on? If not, either you're not listening or you have a brain tumour or something, so seek help. It was only 8 minutes ago. Well, that kyst is actually one of 4, and it turns out it wasn't definitively Roman in origin at all. 2 of them, known as Kyst 3N and Kyst 4N, actually sat right on the edge of the road. Kyst 3N is a lozenge-shaped chamber made of 5 sandstone slabs, probably stolen from the road's curb, one tilting inwards and biting 14 inches into the metalling of the road. Inside of it was a crouched skeleton. The other, 4N, sits just a few feet away, capped by a large flat stone just a few inches above the ground, and during excavation this was apparently left undisturbed. Tombs like these were almost certainly covered in a mound, and are thought to date to the early Bronze Age. Now, these aren't the only probable Bronze Age features here, as a 100% genuine burial mound sits just down the hillside, as well as what appears to be a Bronze Age settlement. Ignoring these glaring Bronze Age connections, the idea of Roman wagons or troops rolling over burial mounds is absurd. The kists cut right through the so-called road, making it far more likely that Wade's Causeway was never a Roman road at all, but an ancient monument that later Bronze Age people dug into, what's known as a secondary burial. Therefore, some archaeologists now believe that what we are looking at could be as much as 6,000 years old, placing it well within the early Neolithic period. Now, that sounds ambitious, and it's about to get a lot more ambitious, but even the more cautious estimates, stretching from around 4500 BC all the way to the medieval period, leave plenty of room for a pre-Roman date. By 2013, English Heritage themselves admitted that the balance of opinion had swung. Wade's Causeway was now thought more likely prehistoric than Roman. Now, a few boring archaeologists believe that it is a medieval road, but we won't discuss that here, as it's actually a somewhat fringe theory. More common is the idea that it was a Neolithic or Bronze Age boundary for delineating livestock and the like.
I mean, could it really be as simple as keeping a few of these ladies in there? Somehow I doubt that. You don't go that extreme with this kind of thing when you can simply just have, a fence. Whereas, you wouldn't build one of these.
I disagree with this, as it's too neatly formed to be a ruinous anything. While I'm nowhere near certain of what I'm about to propose, as it's almost as far-fetched as this being Roman, some have argued that Wade's Causeway is actually, just possibly, one of the world's largest burial monuments. Yeah, you heard that right, and these aren't crackpots, but real archaeologists. To be specific, they suggest that Wade's Causeway is a 1.8 mile long bank barrow or bank cairn, a style of early Neolithic burial mound found throughout the British Isles, which have been known to extend up to a mile, such as the Cleven Ditch in Perth, Scotland.
If you've watched anything I've made in the past, you'll know that I am no Romanist. I get things wrong, I skim over things. I don't really have the patience for Roman history, because I'm a prehistorian. And because I'm a prehistorian, I have wandered down the valley to see if I can find some clues towards what this thing might have been if it was Neolithic. And what I've found down there might just be a big clue, because that, right there, is what's known as Rutter. It's a proper river, and it flows all the way down the base of Moor, down through Wheeldale. That's right there, is it. That's Wheeldale Roman Road, or Wade's Causeway. Now the fact that it's there, on the horizon line, isn't that important, because when you get down to the river, you can't actually see it. Now, a very interesting thing about long cairns of northern England, and it's quite true of the long barrows of southern England too, is that the whole region was wooded, and they seem to have been put in positions between high ground and low ground where people were venturing through. So you could see them, basically, when you were on a track heading up the hill. Now that's what that might be, because to my eye, that doesn't really look like anything. It's not prominent, it's not sticking up to be seen from down in the valley. Rather, it sort of respects the contours of the hill. Now that's very early Neolithic, and it's very bank barrow.
The problem with that theory, in my mind, is that there isn't really anything else of note from the Neolithic found around here. There is, however, as previously mentioned, a notable Bronze Age connection.
Hello everybody, you're currently looking at my face, but behind this gorgeous face is something really interesting. It is one of the largest Bronze Age burial monuments in all of Great Britain. It's known as Simon Howe, and it sits at the centre of Moor. Do you want to see it? Well, you're going to be looking for what's like a little nipple on top of the hill behind me, and that's even if it goes into focus. So let's give this a shot. Did that work? Am I now in focus? I don't know, I'm such a distance from the camera, I have no idea. But the fact that that sits up there, overlooking this, which some people think is Neolithic, well, that might just scream ancestor worship. And that's not the only Bronze Age monument that overlooks this. Just opposite me, on the distance over there, I can see what looks like a flattened burial mound. And all along the ridgeline over there, it's just covered in Bronze Age burial monuments. I count up to 8 from where I'm stood. Could it be that they're looking out onto something that already existed, something from the early Neolithic? Well, write down in the comments what you think.
To conclude, I am now going to suggest something that will annoy some of you. Please, if you are interested in this, continue to think of Wade's Causeway as either an early medieval road or Roman road. I don't say that with any sense of pride, but I simply don't want you all getting your hopes too high up here, and it remains possible and probable that this is just a very strange road. I wouldn't be surprised if future excavations reveal that's the case and just disappoint us all. While this does somewhat resemble something Neolithic in both position and morphology, which is the shape of the thing, it's almost too impressive to imagine. How could we ignore something as exciting as the world's largest burial monument when it's sitting right here on our drizzly doorsteps? The answer, I think, is something far more interesting. Wade's Causeway is a true mystery. Nothing more, nothing less. Until we go back there and do a minor excavation, I would suggest on Kist 4N, the thing will not be dated properly, and there is literally no way of knowing. So, message to Historic England and English Heritage, do it. Do it now. I have been Adam Morgan Ibbotson, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would really appreciate it if you press the like button and subscribe. My statistics show that the vast majority of people who watch these videos don't subscribe, which is probably just like me. They click the video, watch it, and move on. The amount of AI crap on this website. YouTube is a bin. It really is terrible at the moment. They need to do something to get rid of the amount of AI. Just, oh god, it's terrible. I load up YouTube these days, and it's nothing but shorts. If you search anything, the first thing it shows is shorts, and then if it shows a video, it's AI. This place is going down the pan, and it's only thanks to people like me that this thing isn't dead. So subscribe, please.